Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another deep dive today. We're tackling a really interesting topic, how flat rate pay impacts technician retention in the auto industry.
Yeah, it's a hot topic for sure, and with good reason. We're going to be looking at some research from Just Recruiting.
Okay.
They're doing some really interesting work in the automotive recruiting space, so they have a pretty unique perspective on this whole issue.
And they're really seeing how this compensation model is playing out in the trenches, so it makes their research really valuable.
Absolutely.
We'll also be pulling some insights from their website just to kind of give you the full picture.
Sounds good.
All right, so flat rate versus hourly pay. I mean, this debate has been going on forever, right?
Yeah, it seems like it.
It's gotten pretty heated, especially with the whole technician shortage. Everybody's talking about it. So why is this issue so charged right now?
Well, I mean, the auto industry is facing a major challenge right now. We just don't have enough skilled technicians to meet the demand.
Yeah, for sure.
And, the way technicians are compensated plays a huge role in whether they stay in the field or move on to something else.
So this isn't just about numbers on a paycheck.
Right.
This is about the overall health of the industry.
Absolutely. This research paper by Charles Gossman from Just Recruiting really dives into that connection between flat rate pay and, its overall effect on keeping skilled technicians in the industry.
All right, so let's unpack that then. Can you give us like a clear definition of what flat rate pay is? How does it actually work in practice?
Sure. So in a flat rate system, technicians are paid a fixed amount for each specific repair job they complete, and this is regardless of how long it actually takes them to do it.
So if a technician is like super efficient and finishes a job in half the time, they still get paid the full rate.
Yeah, exactly. And on the flip side, if a job takes longer than expected, they don't get paid for that extra time.
Got it.
So their pay stays the same.
Okay, so let's talk about why a technician would be drawn to flat rate pay in the first place. What are some of the benefits?
Well, the earning potential is a big draw. If you're a skilled and efficient technician, you can really boost your income by completing those jobs quickly.
So it appeals to that go-getter type personality.
Yeah.
Someone who likes to see that direct connection between their effort and the reward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for some technicians, that's a big part of the appeal.
Yeah, it's almost like a game.
Yeah, it can be. And, they like the challenge, the autonomy, and obviously the potential to earn more based on their own skill and speed.
Right. So what about from the shop owner's perspective? What are the advantages of flat rate for them?
Well, predictability is a big one for shop owners. With flat rate, it's easier to budget and price jobs because they know exactly what that labor cost is going to be for each repair, regardless of how long it takes.
Makes sense.
And of course, there's the potential for increased productivity. When technicians are incentivized to work quickly, it can really boost the shop's overall efficiency.
Okay, but I'm sure there's another side to the story.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What are some of the downsides of flat rate pay for technicians?
One of the biggest concerns is income instability. Your pay is directly tied to the number of jobs you complete. So what happens during those slow periods, or if you're stuck waiting for parts, your income takes a hit.
And I imagine that could be pretty stressful.
Absolutely. It can be really stressful. It makes it tough to budget plan for the future.
Yeah, you're constantly kind of on edge.
Exactly. And that kind of uncertainty can make it hard for technicians to feel financially secure, which, is a major factor in job satisfaction and retention.
Right. And beyond just the financial aspect, I imagine that constant pressure to work quickly can also take a toll.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the pressure to churn out those jobs as fast as possible can really lead to burnout. Technicians are just constantly racing against the clock.
And that has to be mentally and physically exhausting.
Yeah, it definitely can be.
It just seems like a recipe for stress and potential mistakes.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's being talked about more and more. Shop owners are starting to realize that push for speed and efficiency, it can actually backfire if it leads to unhappy technicians, rushed work, and ultimately a decline in quality.
So it's this tension between productivity and well-being. And that tension is what's impacting the industry's ability to keep those skilled technicians.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. The research definitely points to that conclusion.
So Jess, recruiting, obviously deeply involved in the automotive world. What are some of the things that they're seeing and hearing on the recruiting side of things?
Well, they're talking to both technicians and shop owners every day, and what they're hearing is that compensation is a major pain point for both sides.
So it's not just the technicians who are struggling with this system.
No, not at all. Shop owners are feeling the impact too.
In what way?
They're desperate to find and keep qualified technicians, but they're also struggling with all those financial pressures of running a business.
So it's like this catch-22. They need to attract and retain those technicians to be successful, but the way they're compensating them makes it harder to do that.
Exactly. That's the dilemma right now, and it's a dilemma that needs to be addressed if we want to ensure the long-term health of the auto industry.
So what are some of the solutions that are being proposed? I mean, is it as simple as just getting rid of flat rate pay altogether, or are there other ways to address these concerns?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There are a few different approaches that are being explored, and each has its own set of pros and cons.
Okay, well, let's dive into those in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore those alternative compensation models and discuss whether they have the potential to create a more sustainable future for the auto industry.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. All right, so we're back, and we're digging deeper into how flat rate pay is impacting technician retention in the auto industry.
And we were talking about how this pay system can actually create a lot of challenges for technicians in terms of their well-being and, ultimately whether they stick around in this field.
Yeah, for sure. And we've already touched on, things like income instability and the pressure to work quickly. But let's kind of unpack those a little bit more and see how they connect to the bigger picture of, keeping skilled technicians in this industry.
Right. And I know that the research from Jess Recruiting really digs into that connection. So what are some of the key takeaways that they highlighted?
Well, one of the most interesting things I found was that flat rate pay can actually create this sense of unfairness among technicians, especially when it comes to warranty repairs.
And I think we touched on that a little bit earlier, but can you elaborate on that? What's the issue with warranty repairs under a flat rate system?
So basically, manufacturers will often set lower flat rate times for warranty work, which means technicians end up earning less for doing essentially the same repairs they would on a non-warranty job.
So they're doing the same amount of work, but they're getting paid less just because it's covered under warranty.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see how that would be frustrating for technicians. They're putting in the same effort, but they're not being compensated equally.
And I imagine that can breed some resentment.
Oh, absolutely. It does. They feel like they're being penalized for doing work that's essential for customer satisfaction and, ultimately for the shop's reputation.
It's like you're being punished for doing the right thing.
Exactly. And that's the sentiment that really comes through in the research. Technicians feel undervalued and taken advantage of when they're consistently earning less for warranty repairs.
And I mean, this feeling of being undervalued, that's a major driver of turnover.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't feel appreciated or, fairly compensated, you're more likely to look for opportunities elsewhere.
Exactly. And that's what we're seeing in the auto industry right now. Skilled technicians, they have options.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to walk away from a shop or a pay system that just isn't meeting their needs.
So essentially, flat rate is contributing to the technician shortage.
Right.
By creating this environment where people feel pressured, financially insecure and undervalued, it's pushing talent away from the industry.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to summarize it. The research really underscores that connection.
And you mentioned earlier that Jess Recruiting is really deeply involved in the automotive world. So what are some of the insights that they're gaining from their work on the recruiting side of things?
Well, they're on the front lines, talking to both technicians and shop owners every day. And what they're hearing is that this issue of compensation is just a major pain point for both sides.
So it's not just the technicians who are struggling with this system.
No shop owners are feeling the impact too.
Okay, so how?
Well, I mean, they're desperate to find and keep qualified technicians, right? But they're also struggling with all those financial pressures of running a business. So it's like this catch-22. They need to attract and retain technicians to be successful, but the way they're currently compensating them is actually making it harder to do that.